we have a lot to cover. I want to go over.
Right. And we
Webster, I want to go over your take, though, on what's happening currently.
Fine. We proved this in the United States in the 1930s, so you shouldn't be resigned to a depression. Depressions can be fought and should be fought. Now, Geithner personally has been on this trip. Now, he was in China attempting to manage relations with China, not very effectively, but I think the big thing was he had to rush to Germany to try to defend this bankrupt system. Now, the system is based on globalization, and that means, in practice, hot money, then the supremacy of hot money. The supremacy of hot money, speculation, derivatives, gambling bets, the casino economy, and the destruction of productivity, deregulation, privatization.
Yeah, the supremacy of the central banks being able to issue any amount of made-up derivatives, counterfeit money to buy up whatever assets they want. My issue specifically, though, is what was, as a parlor trick, what is the point of telling the truth and saying we have indebted the American people so much they're not going to be able to buy your widgets anymore? And you say he failed in China. They did say that they're now going to move towards increasing the value of their currency. Is not a successful mission?
No, because it's going to take a long time. It's going to be very gradual. And watch out what you wish for. The Chinese currency peg means that they have to buy dollars to support, to keep the currency peg the way they want it. So, ironically, the Chinese currency peg is likely to be one of the last factors supporting the dollar against a panic crash. And if that were completely removed, the dollar would crash down even further.
But that's what Geithner's lobbying for, because there's no industry left. Or is this just all flim-flam? What's the real agenda, then, of these people? And in the short term, Webster, because folks want to know, looking into your crystal ball, many of our guests predicted Europe would collapse next in the last 2 years. It has, but we always know that there's a separate effect where it will next bring us down as well, or will it hit Asia next?
The principal thing that is being done now is that the dollar was collapsing all during the second half of last year. It looked like the dollar was going to lose any residual status as a reserve currency. So not part of a long-term plan, but as an immediate short-term expedient, a desperate bid to save the dollar from total collapse, they began the attack on Europe, on Greece. It actually started with Dubai around Thanksgiving of last year. Once that happened, they began to lift and shift and move into this hedge fund attack on Europe, assisted by credit default swaps. So the goal was save the dollar for the coming year. And in order to do that, they had to export some of the more acute aspects of the Depression from London and New York. They had to get that into Frankfurt.
And that's admitted. I mean, the Germans have come out. Our own government admits that they're in their raiding. The private brokerage firms are in their raiding Europe, causing this. And what are they doing? Stalling until they can start their new Iranian war?
I don't think these people have a time horizon beyond 3 to 6 months, quite frankly. I think their system is out of control. They're wildly flailing in all directions. They're an image of a ruling class gone mad with no plan and no design, but just these short-term tricks.
All right, Webster, I want to shift gears into the flotilla.
Well, wait, we want to do the German part, which was the main thing.
Okay, stay there then. We'll cover the Germans now moving to block some of this. Then we'll get into what's happening in the Mediterranean, then North Korea. All right, we're back live, ladies and gentlemen. Webster Tarpley's our guest. I want to get into the larger geopolitical structure of things, but we know ahead of any global financial collapse, the Anglo-American powers based out of London, the United States, Europe, always launch a new war. And all of our experts, and I've studied this as well, that's what I concur with, they're going to need a new war. And just notice all this stuff is suddenly popping up, very suspicious. But finishing up, Germany has dared declare that they're not going to fit the bill, mainly to bail out France. We're now learning that most of the money, they've already paid to fix, supposedly, the debt of Greece. And so German central bankers and German newspapers are saying, where is our money going? Just like our Congress says, wait, you said this $800+ billion was for the TARP. This TARP money is for the mortgages. Where did you spend it? And Geithner says, I'm not going to tell you. The head of the Fed Bernanke says, I'm not going to tell you. Well, the same thing has started up here. So, Webster, with your X-ray vision on this, what's really going on?
The main thing is we've had a large economic power of the world, Germany, which is usually the world's #1 exporter. Right now, I guess they're neck and neck with China, who's the biggest exporter in the world. They have dared to violate the rules of globalization and this casino economy by taking action against derivatives. And specifically, they've targeted one of the most dangerous kinds of derivatives, which is the credit default swap, which is simply a bet. It means that you make a bet.
You've always said ban those.
Yeah, ban them. I'm very gratified.
And naked shorting. And naked shorting.
Right. So they say if you want to buy, if you want to place a bet, a credit default swap, on a bond issued by one of the Euroland countries, there are 16 countries that are in the euro, you've got to own those euros, those bonds yourself before you can buy a bet on them, because the argument always is, well, we just use these as hedging for insurance. So fine, you're going to hedge, you've got to be in there with skin in the game. You've got to have some of those bonds in your possession. So the net effect of this is to make certain kinds of credit default swaps illegal, banned, outlawed. And you know, I don't know whether it's jail time or what it is.
And you must do it because the bankers can go in and tens of billions of dollars a day manipulate markets and never really invest anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, they can do this at a distance from afar. Now, Rush Limbaugh every day is telling everybody how great the banks are, how wonderful Wall Street is, and how, I guess, credit default swaps are really your friend. Just remember, if you're upset about the $180 billion U.S. dollars that was given to AIG, that was all because of one hedge fund, the AIG hedge fund in London, that issued credit default swaps to the tune of, well, along with other derivatives, $3 trillion U.S. dollars, about as much as the gross domestic product of France. Now, the other one is in the Goldman Sachs scandal that we've just had with the synthetic CDOs, the way in which Goldman Sachs bet against their own product, so-called, was using credit default swaps. So this one.
And we have the one example of Timberwolf where it's all premeditated. So, I mean, let's understand this.
Right.
They're not, since they already destroyed the world economy, they're not slowing down. They're accelerating the looting because they're vampire zombies, as you so well lay out the analogy. They can't stop. They've got to have blood. They're never going to stop. It's us or them.
Precisely. So the Germans they surprised everybody on Tuesday, the 19th of May, I guess it was, by saying and it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon in Frankfurt, and they said, guess what? At midnight Central European time, naked credit default swaps are illegal on Eurozone bonds, and you're not allowed to do naked shorting of the 10 largest financial stocks in Germany, right, starting with the banks, insurance companies, reinsurance, and so forth. And the reason for this is that the speculative attack of the hedge funds, of the various Soroses and Greenlight Capital and the rest of them, is done through credit default swaps. It's a very efficient way to get a big panic going for a very small investment.
And Germany understands this is economic warfare. They're not going along with it. So this is a huge development.
Precisely. So and they've got a bill in the parliament now which says there's no naked shorting of any German stock, any stock primarily listed on a German exchange, no naked shorts of Eurozone bonds, and no naked shorting of the euro itself. So all of this is to put up firewalls against these speculators. In other words, they're in the process now of re-regulating their marketplace, getting away from the insanity of this free market, free trade.
And if this spreads, this is a lot bigger than Greece fighting back or Iceland. If this spreads, this could spell the end of these people. Now, separately, here in the United States, it's the opposite. They passed their new bank regulation bill, and it gives the mega banks the power to gobble up more small banks, healthy banks that weren't involved in all of that. So Webster, I want you to see how the lines converge, where you see this going on the other side. Then we got to shift gears, as I promised, and go to some phone calls and talk about the war situation globally. Things are really heating up on the Korean Peninsula and in the Mediterranean. The Israelis, what are they doing picking a fight with Turkey? Turkey says they're sending warships in. This is getting wild.